Well, welcome. Thank you very much for being here. And there's only 16 slides that we're going to run through, but if you could hold any questions till the very end, some of the questions that you might ask will show up probably in a later slide, so if you could do that, that would be great. So the purpose is to provide information on safety and security for all those attending Zion Lutheran Church, whether it be for meetings, programs, schools, funerals, church services, or whatever, anytime during the week. So this will help provide information on all those things. The Safety and Security Committee started meeting last October, and this is after we met with somebody from Homeland Security to discuss kind of the safety of our building. So we did actually a walkthrough of the building, took a look at a lot of the areas that needed some concern, and then a committee was put together. You can see all the names right there. And so we've been meeting every single month since that time to get to this point of where we are right now. And then the key thing is just... Can I go back? Yep, go back, please. Sorry. That's okay. I have one job. There we go. And since that time, we've been kind of working on a lot of things on the building. You may have seen sometimes cameras, or you may have seen signs posted or whatever. So what we have done now is we have actually purchased and installed, up to this time, 12 security cameras around the church. Also, signs have been posted indicating that the area is under surveillance. So if you come in any of our doors, you'll notice the signs are actually hanging on the doors. One of the things that's important is that we have shades that are placed in all of the classroom areas that will drop down just by pulling the strap. That is for the safety and security of the people that are in those rooms, especially with our young students that are here for classes. So that's very important. And then also we've changed a lot of the door handles so that the doors can be locked from the inside as well, so that they're always locked. So once the doors are closed, they are locked. So somebody would have to actually open the door for you to get into those classrooms. Next. Oh, we want to back up one. There we go. And then the one thing that you may have noticed is that we have signs that have been installed around the building. If you take a look up in the front of the room up here, to the right side of that door, and also at the very back wall, we have signs there that indicate where you are in the building. Every room now has one of those maps, so it will indicate where you are in the building and where your nearest exit is. Just remember that the closest exit might not be the safest exit. So if you're ever here for a meeting, a program, or whatever, kind of make yourself aware of what other ways can you get out of this building. The other thing is that we now have severe weather shelter areas. By each one of the rooms that is considered a safe shelter, you'll notice this sign right here. They're small placards. They're about maybe 4 inches high, about 2-3 inches wide. And you can see that by a lot of the restrooms, areas that are away from windows or things where debris could be tossed around. Just a reminder that on each one of those signs it will say, "You are here." So in each individual room, Pastor Mike did all these maps before he left us. And so it's really kind of nice that every room is appropriate for the location that you're at. And like I said, each room will show that "You are here" sign. Next. And then in case of an emergency situation, we have phone apps that people that are here that need to know will get information on their phone. There will be a desk phone where there's like an all call button, and then there's also a bell that can ring at the front desk. So there's 3 different ways of getting communication around to the people that are in the building, either all the time or people that are here like during church services and so on. Now I'm going to turn it over to Denise, and she's going to go into some of these things in just a little bit more detail.
Thank you. So just to introduce myself a little bit, some of you have seen me around, but I'm the director of the pre-K here. So I spend my weekdays here Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And every day there's at least 40 children or so that parents are trusting into our care. So I've had to put a lot of thought into our safety and our security, and now that translates into having the whole building be safe and secure at the same time. So by nature of my job, I am forced to look into the what ifs. It's not fun. And I wake up thinking about it, especially leading up to today, because I knew we were doing this. But that's where I come from. So no, I have attended services. So I have been in the sanctuary when it's full. I've been here for Christmas Eve when it's super de-duper full. So I have been here on for events and for busy times as well. So where are we now? All right, severe weather. Severe weather. One thing that we don't think about in this building is you think, get downstairs. Get downstairs. If you're in the sanctuary, it's a big, tall ceiling. You got to get downstairs. But the best way down here is actually not the largest staircase out there. There's a lot of windows, a lot of place for debris and things to happen. So you really want to use one of our interior staircases. We have 2 regular ones. We even have a 3rd one back by the staff office. I will tell you, my little pre-Kers call this one over here the castle staircase. So one day when you leave church, head on down the castle staircase and you'll see why. It's the turns it takes, it's the lights that come on. Typically those lights aren't on during the day when we're here, so they light up when my kids go back there, and it's kind of fun for them. And the other one is the staircase that'll take you right down by the CYF office. In case of a storm, that's your best bet. The other thing I've been thinking about with a storm, the notifications, is your church is going to light up. We can all silence our phones, but if a storm alert comes through, that's going to break through all of your phones. So you're all going to know it's time to go downstairs. Just saying. And don't use the elevator. Most elevators do have the safety to drop to the bottom floor, but let's just not rely on that. Go back into that side of the building and get to safety wherever you can find that. Thank you. So Chuck touched on this about the announcement about the sheltering in place. This is one of those things that's going to be a case-by-case basis. We can't possibly predict what might happen that we would need to shelter in place. But just know that if we do, your ushers are going to know, your front office is going to know, your pastors are going to know, and actually any one of us that has this app on our phone, we're all going to know. And then we're going to share that information with you. So what does it mean to shelter in place? You're going to shut your doors because they all backlock. They're all locked the minute that you shut them. You're going to pull the tab on that shade, and that makes that room, you can't actually see through these shades. There's no images, there's no shadows. That makes that room invisible, if you will, from the inside. And then you're going to move away from the doors. You're going to find a corner. That's the best you can do, is to shelter in place quietly, lights off to the side, and then you just got to wait and pray. And that's where we're at, unfortunately, with a shelter-in-place situation. And then the next slide actually speaks a little more about this. Remain quiet and into the room until the all clear is given by the authorities. That is likely going to be a police officer with a key coming to your room. We're not going to do it with staff because staff can be there under duress. We're not going to do it with, hey, go ahead, come on out. They said it's safe. Just be patient. Be patient and pray, and we will give you the all clear. Parents and caregivers, do not attempt to go to your child's classroom. This is one of those situations that your natural instinct is to get to your child and to get there now. And that actually puts you in a dangerous place. If there is somebody in the building that's here with ill intent, your safety comes equally as important as your children. It's like in an airplane where you put your own oxygen mask on first. You have to be safe in order to be able to tend to your child when the all clear is given. Now, of course, I'm based on the assumption that we will get to an all clear and we'll be able to be reunited, and that's great. Now, every time these incidents happen, we're forced to reassess what happens. So if there's an incident in our building where we have to then evacuate our building, because now it could be, unfortunately, a crime scene or some other discussion needs to happen, we have a reunification spot. And that's literally across 4th Avenue, out by the backside of the concessions at Goodrich Field. We need a reunification place for a couple reasons. One, you may have been separated from your spouse or loved ones. It may be a child is separated from a parent. It could be that we just need to talk to you and find out, what did you see and what happened? And you may just want to share information with us. So it's important to know that we do have a reunification spot, and it is across the street, because we also want to get away from a space where authorities may need, who knows what kind of trucks they need to bring in, or authorities. So, all right, sorry, that was a big one. That said, not all spaces at Zion are considered safe. They're listed, a couple of them: the sanctuary, the bell room, choir loft, sacristy, fellowship hall, CLC, cornerstone. I didn't get it added yet to my policies, but these are not really safe places to just hang out and wait out a potential disastrous event. So you are going to want to leave those places. You're going to want to find one of these places where you can shelter, where the door is still open, and you can take cover. The second part of that is we also trust your judgment. It might be safer for you just to get out. If there's stuff going on here, we got doors all over the place. Get out and get yourself safe. And that might just be going out through the small parking lot up here and getting around to the west side of the building. But that, again, the reunification. Come back around to Goodrich when it appears safe, because we want to make sure all of our parishioners are safe and that everybody is accounted for and nobody's wondering where somebody is at. Because if that happens, then we really want to, let the people know that have come to help us that we're missing somebody. All right. There's also another situation where we would have to lock in. And it happened here this summer on a Wednesday, where there was helicopters and a manhunt happening over on Coon Rapids Boulevard, East River Road, where we actually locked all of our doors, even though door one. And we were at that point monitoring to make sure everybody was staying safe inside our building. The manhunt stayed over there. They ultimately found the fella. They knew who he was, but they did apprehend him. But I don't think it happened until maybe 10 or 10:30 at night. But a lock-in situation can ultimately turn into a lockdown where you might have to take cover. It's just an unfortunate part of society right now. So there is a lock-in where you can go about your business in the church, but outside might not really be a safe place for us. And that's something that the Remind app, we're not going to necessarily communicate that it's a lock-in situation, but if you come down to door one, you might see that we're recommending you not leave the building at that point. Safety and security, medical emergency. First things first is call 911. Call them. Let them respond and let them get here. If an ambulance comes and it turns out we don't need it, that's okay. There's not a charge as far as I know. They're not going to, but they may talk to whoever needs the assistance and they can deny the assistance, or they may need the assistance and now they're already here and they're ready to help. But designate that person. Don't assume that somebody's calling 911. And this is a training we go through. We go through CPR and first aid training regularly. Don't assume that somebody is calling 911. Assign them to call 911. And then ask them to go to the door and wait for the responder. Whoever that first responder is, whether it's an officer, an ambulance, have them go to them, and you can even have them tell them on, door one. If you're upstairs, door four, because then they can unlock the door and let the responders in. We do have a third AED now, and I'm sure you've seen some of the announcements, and that was part of this committee as well. We were noticing that there's a lot of activity happening down by the CLC, the gym, and so we now have a third AED that lives down there. So we have them right here, up by the sanctuary, and back there. Get the AED. Get the AED, apply the AED, because you don't know necessarily what's going on with a person that may be in and out of consciousness. The nice thing that I actually just recently learned about an AED is it will tell you if you need to use it. You can apply the pads, and it's going to assess, and it's going to talk you through this. The AED actually talks to you and tells you, and it's going to say to apply a shock, and that's when you'll do an all clear. Or it's going to say wait. and it's going to continue assessing that person's pulse, heart rate, and whatever else it's assessing at that point. So our AEDs are very important, and they are all up to date and ready for us to use. All right. Name badges. This is on its way, and this is something you're going to see more if you're an individual or one or two people moving around the building. During the business day, I'll say Monday through Friday, there's not a lot of people in the upstairs except for pre-K. So I see somebody up there walking around, and I need to know where they're from, what they're doing, and if they belong in the building. I've had teachers, if their doors aren't already shut, which a lot of times they are, but we go out to the bathroom, we go and hang up artwork. They'll shut their door. Sometimes they'll give me a call. So we're going to start going with our name tags. All of us that are here, all of us staff have name tags. But if you're here during a business day and you have business upstairs, Lynn, you're here a lot helping us organize, we're going to probably have you put your name tag on. Yep, when you come upstairs. And that will tell us that, yes, you absolutely are welcome and to move about the building and do what you need to do. The other thing you'll see on here is persons not wearing name badges should be greeted. When the consultant came out, the number one thing he said to us is for somebody to greet you. Good morning. Can I help you find something? Who are you looking for? Simple ways for us to potentially stop somebody that is coming in here that might just be distraught, and they might say, wow, somebody spoke to me, because they may have been up and down Main Street or in and out of Target and not one person spoke to them. So it's important to greet them, make them feel welcome, and see if you can help, because sometimes they are just looking for a quiet place to pray, and that's important for us to know that as well. Lost child. I can't lose a child because then I have to do a lot of paperwork. However, children think it's really fun to hide and play tag, and parents are usually their first victims. If we lose a child, we want all the doors locked down. Nobody exits, nobody enters. It's very simple, but if somebody has decided to slide into one of these alcoves and shut the door behind them, it's going to take us a little while to find them unless they decide to giggle or come forth and tell us that they're hiding. So we will, the staff is who's going to be assigned to the doors. So if you're here on a Wednesday night, you're here on a Sunday morning, whoever here is on staff is going to go to the doors, and they're going to stay there until we find out that that child has been found safely and on their way to being reunited with their family. Yeah, it's one of those things that we have to be prepared for, but you know, we hope that tag and hide and seek don't exist so much. Oh, that was next. Yep, still on lost child. Entrance to building will pause. Oh, that's where our cameras come back into play. There's a handful of us that have access to these cameras. The cameras start recording when there's motion. So right now, if nobody is up near door 4 and door 5, they're not recording. But the minute somebody walks into the path of those cameras, they start recording. And our recordings last, I think, around 30 days or so, depending upon storage. So we're going to start assessing those cameras, and we're going to start looking through and see if we can find if this child left. Because by the nature of a handicap door, they're a lot of fun for a 3 and 4 or 5-year-old. Yeah. So, so we will, and then we are going to call the authorities. Because if that child is still missing or has been removed from the building, we need those people here now. Those are the people that are trained beyond what we can share with you to assist in this reunification. Oh, we made it to the last slide. Couple of notes. We can only control our response. We have speculated, we have checked news stories, we have checked with authorities and consultations. We can't possibly predict actions that might descend upon Zion. And so our job is to control our responses. And thank you for being here, because knowledge is power. Having just a couple of these thoughts in the back of your mind to think, oh, not using the big staircase, using the castle staircase, which you will all refer to it as now. You'll keep those things in your mind and share them with your friends. That's what we can control, and that's where we'll leave it. So. Closing thoughts.
Yeah, some of these things have happened already since we've started this security thing, and one of them is being aware who people are coming into this building. With our ushers, we kind of stay out in the back foyer areas by the doors, so we can see if people are walking by, or you can see people at the back doors or whatever. But it's been really important because we have greeters that are standing by the doors. And somebody said, there was kind of a strange person walking by and they looked like this and this and this. The next thing you know, they're kind of walking around the building trying to look into places. And next thing you know, they're in the building. So 3 of our ushers walked over and it's kind of like, good morning, how are you? Can we help you? And the guy just looked around and he goes, like, what's going on? Well, church service. So it's just one of those things. And then the guy just took off running. But it was because somebody made us aware that there's a guy kind of looking in windows and kind of checking things out, that it just kind of put us all on a little higher alert. And then we were all able to find this person and then realize that they walked away. But it's kind of like, as they say at the airports, if you see something, you gotta say something. Because not everybody can be everywhere at the exact same time. So if you see something or if you hear of anything going on or anything like that, you have to make somebody aware of what's going on, because don't assume that anybody knows anything about what's going on. So if you see something, you gotta share it with somebody. So do any of you have any questions about anything that we've gone over here? Yes.
We really don't have an all-building PA. You can't make an all-building announcement.
They're working on the capabilities of trying to do that. Right now, it doesn't go into the building per se, it goes into the classrooms or into
Any place that has a phone.
Yeah, any place that has a phone, then it will go into those rooms because it will come across their phone systems, but it's not like over a PA system. So like here, our phone in this room is in the back kitchen. So that's where that announcement or whatever, would be heard. And we did test that. We actually walked around to every single room and tested it. It's just that the person making that announcement has to have kind of a loud verbal voice. Because if you're sitting here going, we're in a lockdown right now, they're not going to hear that. So it has to be somebody that can really get the information out there and stuff. So.
It would be audible and you don't have to actually answer things.
No.
Nope, you don't have to answer it because they can control that from the front desk or from actually any phones that are
Page all up.
yes.
And the other thing is we're not using codes. We're not going to say code red, code blue, code lockdown, get to safety. There's somebody in the building, because they know they're in the building. We don't have to be, cute with it. We're going to say there's a lost child. We're going to say lockdown, get yourself safe.
Yes.
So those of us who come in periodically during the week that are volunteers, I've met you, Denise, and you might not remember me, so, if I'm bopping around, so should I stop and
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
If you don't have like a badge like what Denise has or the pastors or any of the front office, then you should, for common courtesy, just check in at the front desk, say, hey, I'm going to be here, I'm working on this or whatever, I'm going to be in this location, then do that. And if you plan to walk around, that's fine. But as long as you got like a name tag or a name something on, it's just for, it's just for them to kind of know who's in the building. Because I've been here sometimes during the week and all of a sudden you can turn around and there's like 15 people here doing this, that, or the other thing. So there can be a lot of people in this building at all different areas.
And I think it was on the slide, but I didn't necessarily touch upon it. But if you're coming in for a Bible study, we expect that you're going to be here. That's not some place where you have to check in. You're going to come into the building, and you might have some business in the office, or but it's when you start going upstairs and into spaces that are not typically visited by a group the quilters, knitters, the Bible studies, that's when we want you to get a sticky name tag and just wear it for your time here.
Anybody else? Yes.
I wonder if the committee has talked about the unlikely scenario that someone gets into a large gathering, such as a service that we have here, obviously, and unbeknownst to anybody, and then in the middle of the service begins to create some problems, and we could go down that list as to what that might be.
Yes, we.
Is there, how should the people who are in that group, in the service, react in that setting? I mean, panic is right there.
There again, it goes back to the importance of having greeters at our door. Those that are greeters, after they've been there for a certain period of time, people are almost very methodical. If you come in one door, chances are that's always the door you come in. You can almost set your watch by the time people arrive at church. You can tell which ones are going to be late. You're going to tell the ones that are going to be a half hour early. So I'm here normally at 7 o'clock every Sunday morning. So I can tell you by my watch exactly what parishioners are coming in, what ones are going to be at this door, what ones are going to be at those doors. So it's the same thing with the people that are greeters. You're not just there to say hi, but it's also to kind of make yourself aware like, oh, this is kind of like a new person. And that goes to the thing that Denise was saying, is welcome them. You know, make an eye-to-eye contact. If somebody does one of these things and they're not having eye contact with you, that's kind of like a red flag. Because there's nobody that comes in this building that walks through. You know, so it's just one of those things. Is make yourself aware. How many of you are on the greeters crew? Anybody? So you know what I'm talking about. Is you know exactly if you're by a door, you know who's coming in, and you normally see those people at the various doors. If you move around, you know who a lot of our people are. So that's the key thing, is just kind of make yourself aware. Yes.
Just, my daughter, son-in-law are preachers, and in their church, they have a, meeting, and they said, if there's an active shooter, they announce to the congregation, the first thing you do is to grab a hymnal and throw it out.
Yeah, you're taking some action. And that's,
Church, if the church was full and everybody threw a hymnal at them, they'd be so buried they wouldn't be able to get out.
right. So you're throwing hymnals in self-defense to throw them off.
So we're in a
Yes. In the case where, you know, somebody that comes in here with their chin up, because they've been to church before, they know how to come into a church and they look like they belong here, but their intentions might not be for church, you have to rely on yourselves and your peers to take some action. And I'm not telling you to throw yourself in front of somebody, but throw a hymnal at them. The consultant that came out was telling us that they, a lot of their classrooms, they had done Brainerd High School, I think it was. They all have a fire extinguisher in their classroom. The fire extinguisher is not there to extinguish fires. It actually gives them an action to take. If somebody would get into their classroom, you're going to start spraying them with your fire extinguisher. You're going to throw them off their game. You're going to hit them with it if that's what you need to do. So there is an opportunity to take some action. Unfortunately, this morning, even, it comes back to even 9/11. Whoops, that's okay. There were choices. There was choices to go up into the buildings. There was choices to go down. We all know the better choice was to go down and get out. But the ones that went up, most of them didn't make it out of those buildings. There was a choice on those airplanes. And the airplane that ended up in the field, that happened because parishioners, if you will, took action. And they took the action that unfortunately led to their demise, but saved a lot of other lives. So in a case like that, that's where your knowledge is power. If you are up at that end of the sanctuary, get out. If you're close enough to throw a hymnal, throw a hymnal. You're absolutely right. Take cover. That's all we can suggest.
And I think the other thing with that too is make yourself aware of who's around you. A lot of times, there again, people are very methodical. They like to sit in their pew. And so it's kind of interesting, but the thing there is just make yourself aware, not only of yourselves and of the people around you, but of people that may need assistance getting out or moving just a little bit quicker. If somebody is, oops,
You killed the mic.
I don't know why I turned that off.
hello.
Again, one
That's
job.
right, just project.
But if it gets, thanks for working with us. But the weird thing about, what was I saying?
About sitting in your regular pew.
Oh, yeah. So just make yourself aware of the people around there. But if people need faster assistance, we do have. So you can always grab a wheelchair to help get people moving around. So.
Who on staff has CPR training and how often are they trained?
Well, I do. I mean, I'm not here on a Sunday morning. All of the pre-K staff, Kathy has training. She goes through our training every 2 years. Like,
And Lee both have.
Ann and Lee both have it. Actually, your ushers have all gone through not an official certificate training, but they have all been through a training to have an idea of how to do CPR. That's where your AED comes in, and just in general, as lay people, you're looking for compressions. The number one thing they'll tell you when you go to a training every 2 years and get your certificate is you're looking for compressions. You want to get the blood moving and the blood flowing as fast as you can. It's not even so much about the breaths.
Mouth to mouth anymore.
It's not so much about the mouth to mouth. It's about the compressions. So
Staying alive.
staying alive. It's a fast compressions, fast and deep.
I don't know, it seems like every.
Yeah.
There's a weekend refresher, but yeah, we know that.
And also,
So-
like what Denise was saying about those AEDs, if you've never used one, they are so foolproof that literally a 4-year-old could do it. And because once you get the pads on, and the pads actually have to be touching skin, so you can't just lay it on the clothing because it's not going to get the connection, but you actually have to have them on the skin. And there's little diagrams exactly on those pads that show you exactly where they need to go. And then once you open up that thing, the machine is on. And then it will start talking to you.
And there's scissors.
Yep.
There are scissors to get through clothing.
Yep. So it's just one of those things is that it's pretty foolproof. Yes.
I want to thank you for all that time you've given and what you've done. I, however, want to share with all of us that, we need to continue to be mindful that this is God's house,
Yep.
Absolutely.
and we need to share that,
Yes.
Yep.
and we need to live in that.
Yes, thank you. And that's exactly right. We don't want to lock our front door. We don't want to be a buzzer, ring a doorbell to get in, because we want to be welcoming to our parishioners and to the community that comes here to have their faith filled. Absolutely.
And that's kind of why we want to greet people rather than like, what are you doing here? You know what I mean? It's more like, hey, how you doing? Can I help you with something? So.
Absolutely.
And that's why that's our first approach, right? Is because we do want to meet people who are pretty helpful.
Yep.
Although things happen, it's amazing.
And that's
Well, yeah, in fact, the guy from Homeland Security actually told us that I think last year there were something, what was it, 48 kind of assaults on churches. Most of them were down south, but that was, and those were the ones that we actually kind of knew of, but those were the ones that Homeland Security got involved with. But there may have been a lot more situation type things that have happened. But there was 48 assaults on churches just last year. So it does, and if you watch any of the news, you hear about it every now and then where something happened, so. And that was the reason why we decided then to get together and be proactive instead of reactive, because it's very important. The more you know, the better you are. So I think that wraps it up, unless there's any final questions.
If anybody wants to chat, I'll be up here. I'll be around
Yeah.
for a while.
Well, thank you for attending. We really appreciate it. Now you can turn
Now
off
I
the
can
mic.
drink.